Mezcal cocktails are pretty much everywhere, but that wasn't always the case. There was a time when you couldn't find it on any menu pretty much anywhere you went. But luckily, not so long ago, that did change. And today, we're gonna make a spirit-forward cocktail that helped boost its popularity. It's called the Oaxaca Old Fashioned, and let's go ahead and dive into it. Now, the Oaxacan Old Fashioned is a contemporary drink. It was created back in 2007 by a bartender named Phil Ward at a very busy cocktail bar called Death & Company. Now, it's a riff on a basic old fashioned, but instead of using whiskey that most people are used to, it balances the subtle flavors and agave notes of Reposado Tequila and Mezcal. And the name, Oaxaca Old Fashioned, actually comes from the state of Oaxaca in Mexico, where most mezcal is produced. Now, back when this drink was first poured, mezcal was starting to take off, but it wasn't something that you'd see very often on a cocktail menu. It was reserved for cocktail aficionados, bartenders, and spirit enthusiasts. But this drink took off like wildfire, and it helped to introduce tons of people to the spirit and is undoubtedly at least partially responsible for propelling mezcal into the mainstream cocktail scene. I mean, it makes sense. A super popular bar in New York City, bartender pours this cocktail, calls it an old fashioned, and it's got something new and exciting to folks. It tastes great and it takes off. It's kind of like a introductory to mezcal cocktail. Anyway, let's take a look at what goes into it. First up is Reposado Tequila, Joven Mezcal, Agave Nectar, bitters, and we're gonna need an orange. Now, the tequila I'm using is Olmeca Altos. You could use any Reposado that you have. Don't use a silver and don't use an añejo. The mezcal I'm using today is Montelobos Joven Mezcal. I was looking for a high quality mezcal that wasn't going to break the bank, and it turns out this is top of the list for 2023. It's got a delicate profile of sort of the smokiness that you get with mezcal and that earthiness. Now, to sweeten the drink, we're gonna be using agave nectar, which is a little different than a simple syrup that you'd see in a regular old fashioned. And the bitters I'm using today is Angostura cocoa bitters. Now, the original Death & Company recipe calls for Angostura, but when I make this drink, I like to use a Mexican chocolate bitters. I couldn't find any, so I thought that this was kind of the perfect mix since it is Angostura. And the orange, of course, will be for the garnish. That's the ingredients, so let's go ahead and build the Oaxaca Old Fashioned. Now, the build is gonna be stirred in a mixing glass just like a regular old fashioned, so we'll just grab ourselves our mixing glass, and we're gonna start with 1.5 ounces of Reposado Tequila. Then we're going to pour 1/2 ounce of our Joven Mezcal. Now, we're just gonna do 1 bar spoon of agave nectar. I wanna be careful, don't put too much in there, because this stuff is pretty potent and it will sweeten the drink more than it needs to be. And finally, we'll add our bitters. We're gonna use 2 dashes of the Angostura cocoa bitters. And now we need to add our ice. So I've got one of these large cubes right here. I'm just gonna crack it a little bit, just to kind of break it up so we don't have to stir it as long. That was kind of a fail. Now we'll just stir it up for a few seconds. We don't wanna over dilute this, just enough to get everything incorporated and get that agave nectar nice and mixed in. Then we'll go ahead and grab an old-fashioned glass and grab another large cube. Just drop it right in. Grab your strainer and strain it right over the cube. Then we're gonna flame and garnish with an orange peel. Just go ahead and give the light, and then we'll express the orange peel over the rim and garnish. You really get that orange, that flamed orange, when you put it up to your nose. Now, when you first taste it, you get that sweetness, but then the bitters hit you and you get that slight chocolate that plays with the mezcal earthiness. I mean, honestly, this drink is genius. I don't know why I didn't think of it. I think I actually prefer this to a regular old fashioned. By the way, if you liked what you saw today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Better yet, hit the notification bell. That way you'll know when I come out with new videos. Apparently that's the thing to do. So I'd like to grow the channel and I'd like you to be part of it. Anyway, until next time, cheers.